Hi everybody, it is Todd here, the gallery director at A05 Gallery. I'm also a bank robber, or a train robber, and I'm going to talk to you today about the vintage poster collection here at A05 that I'm so proud of. I've been doing vintage posters for over 20 years, and what a lot of people don't know when they come in the gallery is they see these big beautiful posters and they think they're like reproduction posters because they're on a canvas backing. So I'm here to show you why they're vintage, what vintage means, how we restore them and make them awesome again. And I'm going to show you some of the collection because it's just too good not to see. We want you to come to the gallery and see it, but you know, this is the internet. A lot of you are in Maine and Hawaii. We've been shipping stuff all over the planet. It's been great. So I can share the collection with you now online. So what a vintage poster is, it's a poster that was printed up 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. And they were printed to be glued up on the wall, and once they were glued up, they were destroyed. So these are the posters that were never used. And what I do is take this beat up, awesome, but beat up, and you can see the hole in it. It doesn't want to unfold, it's very delicate. This poster will eventually come out nice and neat and unfolded and beautiful, just like this killer John Wayne poster right here. And this is part of the restoration process. You can still see the fold lines in it when it's on the wall, but they're flat and smooth and beautiful. So what the restoration process is I take a beat up poster like this, and then it goes to the restoration process. It literally goes underwater, it's neutralized, the acid's neutralized in it, it's pH balanced. Once it's out, it's restored, corners are fixed. We use paper about the same age to fix missing corners, etc. And we use a water-soluble wheat paste to glue them down onto canvas. And once they're down, they're preserved. And people go, well, doesn't that ruin the value? No, it enhances the value because this is the only museum criteria for paper preservation because it's reversible. You can actually remove this from this backing. So it's a really cool process. I'm really proud of it. So if you have a poster like this at your house, like this is a killer Bruce Lee poster. I love this poster. But you see how it's been treated, right? I can make this Bruce Lee poster perfect all over again. So you can bring in your own stuff to the gallery or ship here and we can linen back, etc., etc. But let's get into the collection because I'm super excited about showing it to you. I'm proud of it. I built it myself. And so I'm going to tell you the difference between printing processes, the years, etc. So this poster here is one of the last great stone litho posters. And what that means is the French used to hand carve limestones and they would print these one color at a time. Boom, imagine, there's the blue. And then boom, there's the orange. And then boom, there's the green. And they always do black last. And that's called trapping. They could trap the colors. And you can't see it on that camera, maybe you can. There's a green hatch and a red, orange, whatever. That's how they line the plates up. It's called a registration mark. All of this is important in vintage posters because you want everything in the poster to show. It's very, very cool. They stopped doing stone lithos a long time ago. It became too expensive with offset printing, which are the little dots that make up the color. You see when newspapers were first colorized in like the 80s, you see the little dots that make up the color. That's pretty much how we do posters today. But check this out. So it's The Outlaw. And I mean, Jane Russell, they had to refilm almost the entire movie because the censors didn't like and Howard Hughes was the director, so he wanted all this. So this is a really special poster, stone litho from France. It's one of these killer things. You hang this on your wall, it gets the attention. We do custom framing here, of course, and a lot of framers can't handle framing things this big. We can handle it. We're really good at it. So this is a poster for a movie I don't really know anything about. They didn't even finish doing the text up here, but you buy it for the graphic. You don't need to know the movie. It's the kitsch and the fun of vintage posters. We still do poster art to this day like we did back then. It's just the printing process is different. Check this out. We've got Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars junkie. Like I was hoping I had my Star Wars socks on today, but I didn't. I would have showed you, I swear it. But the Star Wars poster, see, this is not a photograph. This is drawn by an artist. So there's still people making posters in the old style. And if you have any of this stuff at home, like I said, we can linen back it. Here's a great one from 1983 for Return of the Jedi out of France. It's killer. And in the 70s, Charlie Chaplin films became popular again. So they were putting them in the cinemas all through France. This, of course, is a Charlie Chaplin Film Festival. You can probably pick out the movies if you know your history. But you can still see here, this was almost as brown as a paper bag. It was all acid damage from the folds. That's part of the bleaching of the paper, neutralizing acid, and having some of that staining is still really cool because once it's framed, people look at that and they go, oh, that's real, like that's not a reproduction. we do such a good job that people come in the gallery and they think that these pieces are reproductions, but they're not. They're the real deal. One of my favorites in the whole gallery, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the French release, and look at it. It looks like an Andy Warhol print, like the Elvises, 3 in a row shooting the gun. It looks, I mean, the French are so savvy with their posters that was the reason I got into French posters over 20 years ago, because of their stylization. Here's a good example of a poster that's out of a lot of people's league for purchasing. When this movie came out, it was some time ago. I can't remember the exact date. Rock Hudson was the narrator. That's the word, narrator. This was re-released again. So the original of this is by this guy, Grisson, and he was one of the most famous of the French poster artists. But this was so popular, they brought it back. So this is an offset of the early stone litho, which makes it really affordable. Whereas the other one may be $6,000 or $7,000. This is more in the $500 to $600 range. So it's the same graphic, it's just a later print. Sometimes I bring posters in, I have no idea what the movie is, but the graphic is just so amazing that I had to have it. And this is one of those posters that you put on your wall and anybody will see it will just be like, oh my God, that's the coolest. What movie is it? You're like, I have no idea. But you can also do the research and then find that film and see it and just be like, oh my God, that's so horrible, it's great. Or, oh my God, it's so great because it's great. You'll never know. I don't have time to see every single movie, but sometimes it's just about the graphic. You don't need to know the movie. The graphic itself is just awesome. This is a stone litho. Again, printed one color at a time. Boom. Think about how tedious that was to print this amazing piece of paper. And for those who just want movies that they know, look, Blazing Saddles, y'all, come on. One of the funniest movies of all time, I think. Mel Brooks, of course, genius. This is from Australia, little Indiana Jones guy that I did because Indiana Jones is just classic. And this, a lot of you remembered, a lot of you don't know, but again, it's that nostalgia, it's that vintage look that you have on your wall. I love the crocodile, I love them fighting, the natives coming out of the woods, you know, they're probably gonna be lovers later, who knows, maybe, you never know, but that's what's great about these. And look at the title in red. It's commanding your attention on the theater walls. And think about these big French ones. They would be outside the theater and they would have 5 or 6 of these lined up in a row, and it would command your attention at night. And you may see all this graphic, but that red text got your attention. And at night with the electric lights hitting it, it was really commanding. And then, think about it. One of the best movies of all time. Total cult following now. Having this French version of Jurassic Park on your wall, like, really would be killer. Lord of the Rings, and you have the French version, which I'm nuts about. Can you see it up there? There's the French version, which I love. And then here's the Italian version. So you can see countries made their different graphics the way they wanted to make their graphics. And I try not to pick favorites, and I'll show you a good example of that coming up with Clockwork Orange. But there's the Italian and there's the French. And then there's movies that came out again, like Metropolis. You know, in the 80s, they decided to release this movie with a new soundtrack, and they used Bonnie Tyler, Freddie Mercury, Billy Squier. Having this on your wall, again, a Metropolis poster, one of the most famous movies of all time, one of the most expensive posters of all time if it's the original release of Metropolis. We're talking easily over $500,000. This 80s Italian release is, I mean, in my opinion, it's just as badass, if I can say that, because it is. Just look at this, bam! And then, some of you may just have to have this. Mommy Dearest, French release. Check out the poster. I mean, it's so bad that it's great. Faye Dunaway did one of the best impersonations or impressions or actresses doing Mommy Dearest, I mean, of all time. To emulate Joan Crawford, she was incredible in this movie. And it's got a cult following. I mean, I can quote almost, you know, bring me the axe! And no more wire coat hangers! You know, and I'm not one of your fans! It's a movie that's quotable, and we've seen it 100 times, and here you put it on your wall, like, just how great is this poster? I've never seen this before in person. I had seen it once or twice online, and I finally got my hands on one. You know, folded up in a little square, and then I unfolded it with excitement and bated breath, and then there it was in really great condition, and now it's fully restored and ready to go on your wall. Oh, one of the people, I sold a big vintage poster yesterday. I have to show it to you. This one, and, oh, you guys, this is one of the, I've never had this before. It's one of the greatest posters of all time. The French version of the best little whorehouse in Texas. I mean, okay, we've lost Burt Reynolds. He's no longer with us, and that really causes posters to fluctuate in price, of course, when stars are gone, celebrities are gone. But look at Dolly Parton in this. This is great. Look at the bullet. Pew! I mean, it's just one of those posters that's so great. The client, sometimes clients want movie posters like we talked about earlier, where it's just nostalgia and a cool vintage, you don't know what the movie is. But this guy that bought this is like, this was filmed in my hometown. You know, he knows one of the people in the film, loves the soundtrack, loves Dolly Parton, loves Burt Reynolds, and a lot of people think, well, it has to go in a movie room. This is going in his front room, like the foyer. When you walk in, it's the first thing you're gonna see in his house. So don't just think about these for movie rooms. You know, the way you frame these up properly makes them a true piece of art in your home, which is so amazing. And I'm really proud. I hate to see this go, because I may never see it again, but it's like kind of being an adoption agency. The guy that's buying it's really cool. So it's like, I know where my kids are going. I had to show you that poster because it's too great. Now, who doesn't love Indiana Jones? And for a lot of people my age, almost 50, Temple of Doom was the one that you liked. You know, my older brother, of course, was, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I was younger when this one came out. Anyway, who wouldn't want this on their wall? I mean, it's total Indiana Jones. It's not photographed and like just plastered up. It's an artist rendition. Again, it's French. It gives it that foreign mystique, that foreign energy, the French, don't you know? It's so great. And I don't know why this hasn't sold yet. For those of you that love Disney, this is one of the coolest Disney collections of vintage posters that you're gonna see. The cool thing is, we're gonna talk about titles now, that foreign countries could take a movie, but the name may not make sense. There's a great example of that in the Westerns coming up. But with Disney, the same thing. They basically had Merlin the Wizard, because The Sword and the Stone may not have translated as well in French, may not be a big story that they like, because it's an English story, and of course, you know, in the United States we speak English, and the French may not, I don't know about this King Arthur. I mean, who knows? But they called it Merlin the Enchanter or Merlin the Wizard. The color on this is awesome, and a lot of people think, oh, it's great for a kid's room, and it is. It's great for a kid's room, but at the same time, as an adult, when you frame this properly, it becomes, again, a piece of art in your home. Very pop art. It could be like totally pop art. Collectors could put something up like this and talk about the history of it too. I mean, this is not something that just got printed. I think it's early 70s, but you can see Sword in the Stone. Look at the colors, and they even have the dragon when she does the dragon. You don't see that a lot in the United States posters. And then they have more run-of-the-mill ones. And oh, one of the secrets of Disney too is that Walt Disney's name is written like this, then it's pre-80s. Because by the time the 80s came around, they were only doing the signature Walt. So that's a great way to tell the dates too of posters. When someone says, I have this poster I want to sell you, check the Disney part and make sure that you know. Because before the 80s, they didn't use the signature, they used just his name. And I have stuff like the Snow White from 1937 is worth, I don't know, $200,000, $300,000, who knows? This is from the 80s. It was the 50th anniversary. It was very cool, and it's a lot less money. You're talking in a $450, $500 range, which really beats $250,000. One of the holy grails in the stack of Disney is the movie that Disney wanted to forget about, which was The Black Cauldron, that came out in the early 80s. And of course, they didn't call it The Black Cauldron, they called it Taran and the Magic Cauldron. I loved this film as a kid. Disney was trying to make movies for boys, because they thought that the girl soundtrack stuff, the princesses singing, that boys weren't going to the theater, so they made their first movie without songs in it. It had a musical score, but the characters didn't sing, and it flopped. It also was 7 years in the making. They realized that boys and girls wanted to know the songs of a Disney film. Now, of course, Disney's gone back to that style now, but so to find a movie that Disney tried to bury, that in mint condition from France, this is one of the holy grails in the whole table. I'm really proud of this poster, and finding it was awesome. And you can see that look at that big edge. This thing would be beautiful in a frame. It's perfect with that sword coming out of the top. There's a word for that, and I can't think of it because I drank too much espresso. But that's a word for that when it comes out of the border. Someone will type it in the comments, I'm sure. Not a problem. But anyway, moving on is Peter Pan. Oh, you may not know this, but in the Disney world, there's a rumor that this mermaid in Peter Pan is actually Ariel's mom. And she's on this poster, which is really cool. You see how the Italians incorporated everybody? Like they included it all in their posters. In the United States, we didn't do a real good job of that. Look at this, one of my favorites too, the Italian release of Hercules. Enough said about that. This is gorgeous, Fantasia. It's got all the characters, including Mickey the Sorcerer at the top. Very cool. This is what's called a British quad. So each country, you're probably figuring out, has their own size. The Italians made these pieces that were 39 inches by 55 inches. Sorry, 39 by 55. The French did huge 47 by 63, which it makes sense in centimeters. It's 120 centimeters by 160 centimeters, but for us it's 47-63. And then the British did these things called British quads, which are rectangular in size and always horizontal. That'll help you know what country posters are from by the size too. But this is the original release of the Aristocats. Really rare poster on the table. Again, if you'll forgive my English, really badass. It's just pure 60s. Look at that in the background. And even Baloo from The Jungle Book is coming in and saying, I'm passing the baton over, you're the new movie. This was unheard of, like, it just didn't do that. And the British put it on there and it's great and I'm nuts about it. And enough said. I don't need to say anything about the next poster. Rescuers Italian version. Again, a really great graphic. The Rescuers is kind of a cult following too. Rescuers and Rescuers Down Under. One of my favorite movies and how I got my name basically. I mean, I was born before the movie came out, but yeah, come on. I was a little baby fox. But it's Copper and Todd, the Fox and the Hound, and I love this. Now, the French called it Roxanne Rookie or what, I don't know. But Fox and the Hound French release, it's killer. And one of the most amazing scenes of any film ever recorded ever was when Pocahontas gets caught in the fog. John Smith catches her and her hair starts to blow in the wind. One of my favorite posters on the table. One of my favorite movies, favorite scenes in a movie of all cinematic history is, it was a magical moment that Disney had when they caught her hair whipping in the wind when John Smith was, and then he realized, oh, I'm in trouble. She's really human and beautiful, not a bear. Great poster. And then this is not the 1989 release of Little Mermaid, but the 1998 release, and one of the more sought after images too. So again, the Disney collection is killer, and we have a lot of other posters that aren't linen backed from the United States in a whole Disney bin that you can flip through yourself. Okay, moving on to more vintage stuff. We all know Gone with the Wind. Again, the original release of this poster is like sky high in price. This movie was released every 5 years somewhere, and this was the early 80s release of Gone with the Wind, so it makes it big, beautiful, and still vintage and affordable for under $1,000. Depending on the movie and the vintage, it's going to change the price of the posters. This is a great example of how countries change the graphics. So the Italians weren't really big on American comedies, but this is The Princess Bride. And a lot of people go, what? That's a Princess Bride? Looks like Conan the Barbarian. Well, they wanted it to look like a fantasy, you know, like a serious, I mean, look at the RUSs if you've seen the film. The RUSs look really menacing, and where in the movie it's a guy in a suit, you know, fighting in the woods. So Princess Buttercup looks all, but it's one of the greatest movies of all time, and it's one of the greatest posters of all time because the Italians just made it so very serious. Love this poster. Another poster that's a great example of just art and craftsmanship in the design of a poster is this West Side Story piece. The gradient of color from that purple to that blue is stunning. The black background demands your attention, and it's a movie that everybody loves, or the soundtrack everyone loves. And again, this on your wall, framed properly, just the impact is there. Kind of expresses who you are. Another country changing the names, of course, this is a Mexican poster. I love this. This is the Bad Men of Tombstone. So translate that to Spanish, and it may be a little funky, like, where's Tombstone? But, so they called it Hate in Your Heart, which will make more sense for the Spanish viewers than, Bad Men of Tombstone. So you'll see a lot of that in foreign films. They changed the name of the film. Okay, this is hands down one of my favorites on the whole table. It's an old stone lithograph from 1947, 1948-ish. And it's a Jungle Gym film, Johnny Weissmuller, and it's a stone litho, printed one color at a time. You've got the tiger, the hero, the monkeys. It's just amazing. And the more you look at it, the more you start to see, like, I remember when I got this, I folded it up, I undid it, I looked at it, and we had it fully restored. I noticed the snake in the tree, and I hadn't seen that before. These kind of posters are the ones that people put on their wall. They're just, people look at them and they can still see the fold lines. There's some of the grease that's stuck with the yellow plate on the side. People look at these, they know they're the real deal. Like, these are vintage posters. Again, a movie I've never seen, I've never heard of it. It's Apache Drums. The French changed the name to make sense because they may not know what Apache is, let's say. Again, it just is one of those pieces that if you have a a ranch home, or you're into westerns. Like, it's just, I mean, look at the eyes, the fear in this girl. Really incredibly done. Stone litho, printed one color at a time. This is cool. It's for, you know, the Beatles Let It Be documentary. I don't know why I haven't sold this yet. It's the Beatles. It's the Italian release. Enough said. It's the Beatles. My sci-fi collection I'm really proud of, and this is out of order a little bit, but so Blade Runner 2049 with Harrison Ford is, again, this is an example of a contemporary poster that will be vintage one day, but it's still iconic because of Blade Runner 80s, Blade Runner now, one of my favorite posters on the table. We have superheroes. There's a cheesy Captain America piece from the early 80s. I'm nuts about it. I mean, hello. Cult classic film. Censors, controversy. I had to sneak a VHS of this as a kid to watch it with my neighbors. Sorry, Mom. Clockwork Orange. The French release, but their own design. This graphic's incredible with the orange peeling. You remember this part, and this singing in the rain. Wow, this is so impactful on your wall. You put this on your wall, people are like, oh, you know. But this is the poster that y'all probably know, and it's this version. Now, here's the difference between the French, I have an Italian, I'll show you in a minute, and the US. In the United States, in the 80s when this came out, the censors actually took her out. They thought it was too graphic with the point where it is. I'll let you decide. So the censors cut that out. So in the US we just had this, and then that was blank. So the foreigners kept her in there. So if you really want a great Clockwork Orange poster, get a foreign one, because this is the true intention of the design. They did not waver on their own design with this because it's a killer design. Or you can do what the French do, of course, too, and pick the weird one. Anyway, it's up to you. Here's a US poster. It's a good example of one I linen backed. It's a James Bond film, Spy Who Loved Me. This was folded up to about this big, as you can see. And the reason they did that is they could put it in packets, mail it to the theater, and the theaters could glue them up or just tack them up, whatever they needed to do. However, this was damaged in shipping, and it was folded up when I got it, and it had a hole poked through all of the folds, like literally a hole poked through. And with careful restoration, you can't tell where the holes were poked. And that's the kind of work that we do to put things back together. And even though this is an offset print, which is harder to restore than stone lithos, because stone lithos are flat, smooth color, and offsets are little dots that make up the color, we do the best restoration. Like, we can make anything magic. So I'm just tooting my own horn. Beep, beep. Here is something you've never seen in the US, John Wayne in pink. But this is from Yugoslavia, a country that doesn't even exist anymore. But how cool is it to have a piece of history from Yugoslavia? John Wayne's in pink. The design is just killer. You can see Eastern European sensibility. I love this poster. This is also for Fort Apache, and it's I don't know. I just think that you put that in a frame on your wall. You don't have to like westerns. Just that it's just so Texas and badass that. And it's from Yugoslavia. The only thing I remember about Yugoslavia now, and you know, my history is, you know, it breaking up, but the Yugo, that horrible car they made. Two of my favorites in the whole stinking gallery. Not kidding. Like, I'm nuts about these. One more than the other, and I'll explain. I love Planet of the Apes. Old and new Planet of the Apes. It's great. This is Battle for the Planet of the Apes. This is so bad it's good, impactful, wonderful. This is so good that it's, you probably won't be able to see it in the camera, but there's actually a circle spiral throughout the two characters that on the wall's very cool. However, it's got this circle and it opens up. This movie's really bad, but it's so bad that when it's on TV, I actually watch it and I can never turn it off. It's one of my favorite posters in the entire gallery. It's the Italian release of Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I just think it's sensibly, perfectly done. I love the red text at the bottom where it's just demanding that, you know, it's Escape from the Planet of the Apes. And I love their faces, and again, I'm a big fan of Planet of the Apes, and if you are, this is like the perfect thing to have on your wall. And it's history. You know, people are like, oh, that's cool, and you go, yeah, it's, you know, also 50 years old. Like, it's amazing. There's a girl dancing. I bought this poster, and I've sold it before. I know the movie, not a big fan of the movie, it's cute, it's great, whatever. It's just that it's the romance of Paris in an American movie, American poster. It's just cool. The French flag on the Eiffel Tower, the Tabarin girls. sometimes I buy the poster just because the posters are awesome. You know. Speaking of awesome posters, this is one that La Squalo, the Italian release of Jaws. The only thing wrong with this poster when I got it was that someone had trimmed this off, and I left the border big on this side, and just to show if people are big collectors and they roll these up and put them away, some people don't frame, they actually put them in tubes and save them, that, you know, I saved as much of the borders as possible. This corner up here was missing where someone probably tacked it up and pulled it down, and I don't know if you can see in the camera, but we've totally replaced that corner. We make these things perfect again, y'all. It's not the easiest thing to do. I showed you at the beginning of the video how beat up posters are when we get them, and we just make them awesome again. I bought this for somebody that, you know, hunts. It's called the whitetail buck. I'm sure it's about hunting. It's not Disney, it's RKO, so it's about hunting, I'm sure. This is awesome. This is a cool German release of The Godfather, and look how, like, menacing that is in red. Most of them are in white, and this being in red, like the blood red, is really like, enough said about that. This is super rare, super awesome. Somebody would have thrown this away in the past. It was so torn up and we fixed it. This was the last Spider-Man movie made when he had small eyes. After this, his eyes got big. So this is a real collector's item. In fact, the whole corner down here was missing, and we had to Google it and try to find this image to see what year it was because the year got cut off, and we actually had to write in the 1977 because it just had the 1 and the 9, and we couldn't remember if it was 78, 79, 76. So that's part of the research we do too. We have to figure out like what it looked like before pieces were missing. So this is a great poster if you're a comic book fan, if you're a Spider-Man fan. It's just, you know, I can't explain to you how much I love this. After 2 decades of doing it, I'm still just as enthused as I was when I was in my 20s. Another holy grail is this Flash Gordon. I don't have to say anything else about it, but it's one of the best pieces on the table. I mean, one of the greatest pieces on the table. And then some more contemporary stuff, like Stargate, really cool. Here's a good example of the Italians doing their own thing. Don't see a lot of swastikas on US posters, but this Cabaret had it on there. Of course, this is called a trifecta poster, where the poster's in great condition. It's a movie that's award-winning and people love it. Whether you've seen it or not, you know the movie, and you like a character in it, Liza Minnelli. So it's called a trifecta. Famous actress or actor you love, movie that you love, and the condition's great. I don't know why this is on the table, but it's here. So, yeah. Now, just because it's Marlene Dietrich, that's all. That's all I have to say about that. This is another example of a poster somebody probably would have tossed because it was in such bad condition. This whole border had to be kind of replaced. It was covered in yellow tape that was stuck to it, and it had yellowed the paper and it was rotting. All that was removed, clean, bleached, pH balanced, and look how beautiful it is now. It's got a brand new life. Rebel Without a Cause. Just incredible. Great movie, great poster, boom. I'm gonna show you some Westerns and then we're gonna be done except for a special ending that is a real big surprise of things I just got finished I'm really excited about. But, I mean, again, Clint Eastwood, Pale Rider, John Wayne Chisholm, I mean, the Italian release, look at this. I mean, they even show that when he gets gored by the longhorn, this boom, right through his chest. And then there's movies I don't know what they are. I haven't even looked them up to find out. I mean, it's Rory Calhoun, so I'll be able to find out what movie this is. But honestly, I got it for the graphic. It's just so Western. It's just pure Western. And this artist is my favorite French movie artist. His name is Roger Soubi, and I think he's the greatest of all French poster artists. I have trouble keeping him on the table. People don't know the movies, but they see his art and they just really love what he does. And then you've got kind of the tongue-in-cheek stuff, because this is a Western, and it's John Wayne. All right, Pilgrim. But it's Rock Hudson and John Wayne in the same poster. Now come on, for those of you the right generation, this is a little tongue-in-cheek. It's a bit funny, it's a bit campy, but wow. You know, 2 great icons, movie poster. Again, this is kind of a trifecta thing. And then another movie I don't know, I've never heard of this movie before, Gunpoint, and someone's gonna write in and go, you don't know that movie? Well, I don't know them all. I just pretend when I'm at work. But again, it's just great for the graphic, that pure Western style, if you will. Okay. So there's more Westerns, but you can come to the gallery and see them, and they'll be on our website really soon. We're building a really cool page with all of our movie posters on them. However, in the meantime, I want to show you this Tom and Jerry that I got from Italy, and it's so big it was printed in 2 sheets of paper, and that's something we can do too, is put paper together that's printed. And the reason they're printed in 2 sheets is they didn't have a printing press that big, so they had to do them in sections. So, if you'll allow me to unroll this bad boy, I'm so nuts about this poster. No one's even got to see this before except maybe one person because we've been closed. And it's one of those posters that we don't really care to sell because we like looking at it, but we'll sell it if we have to. Don't get any ideas, but come on. If you're like a cartoon freak, animation freak, this Italian release of Tom and Jerry is like one of the greatest things. It's 1967 off the top of my head, I think. You can see the old fold lines in there. It had to be bleached, clean, pH balanced, printed in 2 sheets of paper. Right there's the split where it was printed in 2 sheets of paper. We put them together just like they would have been glued up back in the day on the walls of the subway or outside the theater on the brick. It's just incredible. And again, when somebody says, "Oh, I'm getting a Tom and Jerry poster," you don't think about it being like, "Oh, this is the Italian release in the 60s of a Tom and Jerry cartoon," which was a major feature in a theater. It's not like a cartoon you turn on TV and you're like, this was a theater quality movie at the time, and it's Tom and Jerry, we love them, and again, you have that romance of it being a foreign poster. It's fun to translate, get to know your art. These things can change your whole house. It doesn't have to be a movie room, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a movie collector, it's just the impact of vintage posters become art, and they become collectible and fun and exciting, and it's just all part of what we do here at A05 Gallery. We can restore your posters, we're going to restore our own and sell them to you, of course, and we're also getting into, we're very excited about this, we're getting into product ads again. We got a new collection recently of some Swiss poster ads that we'll show you in another video. If you have questions, just email me at inquiries@A05 Gallery. Call the gallery if you wish, leave comments on the video. Always check us out on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll continue sending you awesome videos like this to watch in the future. In case you're in North Carolina and you can't visit the gallery, you can watch us right here at Todd Talks and at A05 YouTube channel. Thanks. See y'all later.